Lake County Republican Speaker Series, and tonight we are proud to be partnering with McHenry County Republican Party, and we're here to bring you a fireside chat with Lieutenant Governor Matthew Pinnell of Oklahoma. Fire's right here, right here. First, the series would not be possible without the generosity of our sponsors and hosts who are listed in tonight's program, but especially I want to thank Kathy and Al Salvi, who are our series sponsor, but have also provided us with use of their lovely home tonight, so thank you very much. A special thank you also to Dina Krieger, Pam Danzig, and Kara Tomas for working so hard to make this evening happen. Thank you all. So, Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell, we're so pleased to have you here for our speaker series, and it's actually very refreshing to be able to talk to someone face-to-face in politics in our post-COVID digital world, but let's get right into it. So your role as Lieutenant Governor also has you leading delegations to other states to lure businesses to Oklahoma for purposes of economic development and job creation. So I, for one, am happy to put up any Chicago stake up against Oklahoma, but outside of that, give us your 1-minute elevator pitch for Oklahoma.
Well, first off, how about your county chair right here, Keith? This guy. I don't know if I could pull this off in my own state, having about people show up. So well done. This is how you build county parties. Okay, I want you to hear that from me. This is how you do it, one event at a time. And I love seeing all the young faces in this room too. That means, again, you're reaching out to a number of different generations here. So keep doing what you're doing. This is a big deal. I'm not here to steal all your jobs, okay? But yes, I am in Chicago. I'm in Illinois. Thank you for this weather. To tell the Oklahoma story, to talk to companies, partner with companies first. I think that's one of the mistakes that far too many politicians make is they run it, they go into a state, they're not humble about it. They're not kind about it, and they just show up thinking, beating their chest, saying, I'm here for your jobs and for your teachers and all these other things. That's happened a lot between Texas and Oklahoma, and it hasn't worked real well for Texas over the last few years. We're here to partner with companies. Yes, we are here to tell the Oklahoma story. And the Oklahoma story is about second and third chances. That's really where I start the conversation when I talk about this state of Oklahoma. If you look at the history of the state of Oklahoma, it's as authentic and unique as any state's history of how it was founded. The Trail of Tears and all the generations, all the different demographics that we have in the state of Oklahoma. But it truly is the land of second and third chances. If you're looking for a second chance, a third chance, if you're looking for where the American dream still lives, arguably the most pro-business state in the country, it's Oklahoma. But it begins and ends with our people. Yes, it's probably the friendliest state in the country. We are very friendly, and we lead with that because I think people in this country today are looking for that. They're turning off their televisions because they're sick and tired of what they're watching on the news, and they want to go find where America still is. And if you want to see America, you got to see Oklahoma, and that's really what we're selling today.
I mean, look, it's so tempting in so many ways, and I think Illinois has had plenty of opportunities, and in a lot of ways they have squandered the opportunities. Yeah. I think they take a lot of it for granted. The reality is, for a lot of our people in business, we live in a worldwide economic environment. It's international. Air travel's easy, it's affordable, electronic communications and banking is preferred, and in a lot of cases it's expected and required. Does it matter that a business is located somewhere like Oklahoma versus somewhere like Texas or California or Illinois?
Well, I mean, it's a good point because, again, Oklahoma is where East meets West, right in the middle of the country. The Midwest doesn't want to claim us. The Southern region doesn't want to claim us. We're just Oklahomerica is and we have the T-shirt that says that. I mean, we're kind of just Oklahomerica. And when COVID hit, you may have heard of it, and we all lived through those experiences, this whole remote working environment. At first we loved it, and then we didn't in some ways because, in a state with 4 million people, Oklahoma has about 4 million people, you allow, our largest employer in Tulsa and Oklahoma City to start working remotely, restaurants start dying. Commerce in our major metro areas down Main Street start dying when you have this remote working environment. So that really hasn't worked real well for us, and it hasn't worked for, frankly, a lot of Midwest states. What has worked well for us is just getting talent to our state. So we have a program called Tulsa Remote. I live in Tulsa, which is in northeast Oklahoma, and this program actually was featured on 60 Minutes a couple years ago. We had a very wealthy business owner in the city of Tulsa that literally just started paying people to move to the city of Tulsa, paying people $10,000 to move to the city. Yes, it was a PR stunt, but he understood something. He knew that Oklahoma was an amazing state if you visit it. If you visit Oklahoma, your perceptions of Oklahoma change pretty quick, particularly if you go to Tulsa or Oklahoma City, because they're major metro areas that have invested in themselves, quality of life. So he knew if he could just get a young, talented person to come to Tulsa for a couple nights just to test it out, that they would stay. And that is what a lot of Midwest states are doing today. We have to change perceptions that people have of communities first. If you don't change the perception of a city or state, then another state's going to define it for you. And I was, for the first 4 years in office, Secretary of Tourism and Branding. So I was the only elected official, only lieutenant governor in the entire country that was in charge of rebranding their entire state. Which wasn't really smart, because it's probably the most visible thing you can do. Creating a new logo, creating a new brand for a state is a very visible thing. You're either going to like it or you're not.
I'd like to have used it.
But yes, they could. Yeah. They didn't call. Bless their hearts. But it is it's an unfortunate reminder of the roads that some go down. And so I really, did a lot of discovery of again, who we were as a state, and did hundreds of thousands of interviews across the world, because what you're saying is right. It's a global competition for talent. We're not just competing with 49 other states. All the countries that are looking to reshore operations to America, they're looking at Illinois and 49 other states. And that has really filled up Oklahoma a lot over the last couple of years. We're one of the fastest growing states over the last 12 months. Most people don't know that. But the middle of America is what is selling today. You have companies in anti-business states that are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you see this. I'm preaching to the choir a little bit. You understand that in Illinois. That's why you have to continue to fill up conservative rooms like this to reverse that trend here. That's why you have to get next generation involved in that fight, because it is a fight. But that is what has been helpful to us as a state. It's probably more fertile ground in Oklahoma than it's been in the last 50 years, truly. During the oil and gas booms, the early 1920s, 1930s, you can compare it to that. You truly can, because we have so many companies in America today that are just fed up, and they're looking for a state where they can live their lives. Leave me alone. Let me live my life. I want freedom still. I'm still looking for that American dream. And you can't get that in a lot of Democrat-controlled states today in America.
I mean, imagine that, a government that is helpful and pays attention to its citizens and the businesses that feed that.
Yeah.
We haven't had that in a long time in Illinois.
That's
we
right.
really haven't.
Yeah.
So I want to change gears just a little bit. So most recently, you won your re-election in Oklahoma by 35%. First, what's that like for a Republican to win by that much? And second, what were the keys to your victory?
Yeah. So in Oklahoma, you don't run as a ticket. So I have to run my own campaign, raise my own money. That's the only reason that I think I would like it to be a ticket, is I wouldn't have to raise my own money. So selfishly, I say that. So you're on your own. I mean, it's sink or swim. You got to, which I had to come up with an actual platform. And I think we have 77 counties in Oklahoma. So that's your other trivia, okay? 77 counties. So a lot of territory. But what was funny today when Keith was putting this itinerary together, and Rusty's here with my campaign, we saw this hour drive time between each location. And I'm like, well, it's only 15 miles to the next location. 15 miles means 15 minutes. Seriously. Like,
welcome to the Chicago area.
Welcome to Chicago. So I'm spoiled. We're spoiled rotten. But we sell that, by the way. So I put up billboards in Dallas within the last 6 months. I put up billboards on some of the busiest highways because Oklahoma City is 2.5 hours from Dallas. And I put up billboards all across Dallas that said if you lived in Oklahoma, you'd be home by now. And so we're kind of really leading, we're going to Dallas and we're expanding out from there. But I went county to county with an actual platform of what I wanted to do as lieutenant governor. Because before I was, and you may be asking this question, before I was lieutenant governor, I was the state Republican Party chairman in Oklahoma about a decade ago. I was the youngest chairman in the country. So those of you all that are involved, I've been in your shoes. And then I helped Reince Priebus, good Kenosha boy, when he was RNC chair. I oversaw all 50 states for him running the RNC. So I've been to almost every state convention in this country, which is quite the statement if you've been to a state convention. What I believe taxpayers want, because listen, we smell a fake coming a mile away. And for sure the next generation smells a fake coming a mile away. You better have a plan. You better be able to go on that doorstep and say why you're running for office. Because what I heard when I started running for office is, well, what the heck does the lieutenant governor do? I don't know what a lieutenant governor does other than hang out and wait to run for governor. And that's what people did. They just laughed about it. It's like, well, I don't want to be a joke. I know why I'm running for lieutenant governor. So what if I just started there? Like, I'm not giving them the 15-page energy platform, that their eyes are going to glaze over. I'm not, using a talking point from a talking head on a radio or television show. I'm telling them my story and why I am running for the position. And it was a sales and marketing job. I have a sales and marketing background. I wanted to run the tourism department. So I started saying this. That was not something that they had heard before. Most taxpayers don't hear that kind of pitch. It's unfortunately, consultants today say this is your canned 15-minute speech, because if you don't stay in your lane, you're gonna screw up. People are freaked out about that, and you got to have some guardrails. I'm not saying you don't, but be authentic, have an actual plan, and I'm telling you, taxpayers reward that. And so I won all 77 counties. I was the only statewide elected official that won all 77 counties. It's very difficult to win urban areas in any state, and that includes Oklahoma, one of the reddest states in the country. But I had an actual platform and had a lot of Democrats, conservative Democrats, and independents that said, well, hey, at least this guy knows why he's running for office. And the other point that I really leaned in on, I looked at people and said, listen, I can talk to you about energy policy, I can talk to you about education reform, but Lieutenant Governor, let me tell you what constitutionally I'm actually in charge of. Because I'm going to focus on those swim lanes. I know what I actually have authority over. I'm not going to waste your time talking about things that may be in an applause line, but that I have no authority to oversee. And I got a lot of, and this was more middle of the road, voters that said, I haven't voted for Lieutenant Governor in a really long time, but I thought you were authentic saying that. There was a lot of truth in that I don't vote anymore because every candidate is saying the same thing, and I know for a fact this person doesn't oversee that agency, but they're saying it because they don't think I know enough, and so people smell that fakeness. That helped. That was very helpful to me because Oklahoma is still retail politics. Illinois, completely different animal, hundreds of millions of dollars that you have to raise to spend on advertising. I was able to raise $3 or $4 million and run a lot of TV. And you got to make a really good 30-second movie. I know, crazy. Come to Oklahoma. Water's warm. The water's warm. But you got to make a really good 30-second movie. And if that 30-second movie is not authentic and it smells fake and it looks fake, good luck. They'll switch that channel real quick.
Yep. Oh, look, we've seen it. People can smell when a politician is talking to them and just telling them something they want to hear.
That's right.
People know it, and it's the worst. It's the worst. So running statewide, how did you keep the national political circus out of your race?
Well, so when I was state Republican Party, the national state Republican Party chair, that was in the 2016 election circus cycle. Call it what you want. So, I mean, I was there. I was in a lot of rooms with Trump. No, I was there before, I was there when we had the 14 candidate. If you remember that, remember those days? Feels like a very long time ago, right? But when we had to do the debate circuit, I was there through all of that. And was not surprised that Trump won that election at all. I mean, because we were really close to it. Because I saw him go from in a room like this, and everybody fell in love with him. And then we would open up a door to the next room at the convention hall, and it was like 250 people. Everybody fell in love with him there. And then we opened up the doors to 5,000 people, and he just dropped the mic, was good in there too. So he was one of the few politicians that I've frankly met over the last 20 years that was good with all of those groups. And, so I was able to, compartmentalize it a little bit. What I would say is if you try to separate yourselves from a national narrative, I have learned, at least in Oklahoma, it doesn't work. So to your question, I'm pretty blunt about that. There is a national election next year that you are not going to be able to escape. I'm telling you right now. There's no way. It doesn't matter how much money or time you spend with your neighbor talking about, well, I know nationally, but we have a local race. It's extremely difficult when you're talking about a presidential election that is going to consume your radio, your TV, your podcast, everything. And so I've said you don't necessarily have to lean into it, but you do have to take parts of it and use it, because there will be things that every one of our Republican candidates talk about. Name one of our candidates running for president right now. You can take a piece of it and bring it down to a state level. We've done that in Oklahoma. We've done that on energy policy. We've done that on border issues, which are very big issues in Texas and Oklahoma. You can do it on tax policy as well. What's going on at a national level that affects us at a state level? And then all 50 states are affected by something that Joe Biden is doing right now. And we don't need to belabor that point any more than that. But I'm just telling you, I believe we're going to waste time trying to completely separate ourselves from it. Now, the divisiveness, yeah, I get it. Try to separate yourselves from that as much as you can and be as positive as you possibly can. But we have to talk about what our Republican candidates for president are wanting to do to help change this country. And I think it will help state house and state senate candidates. We have a lot of candidates that are sitting at 23rd and Lincoln at our state capitol in Oklahoma City that got elected because Donald Trump ran for president in 2016. And we will have Republicans elected in Oklahoma, I firmly believe, because of whoever our Republican nominee will be next year. And that's unavoidable.
Yeah, thanks for making my job harder.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Is it harder in Illinois than Oklahoma? Of course it is.
Yes.
Of course it is. But there are positives there. There's a lot of things that I'm already hearing our candidates talk about that I can rally. I'll run up that hill and champion those things that they're talking about. And it would be nice, certainly, if the RNC and our 50 states can rally behind a few of those points.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, sort of tangential to that, the role and influence of social media on all things political.
Yeah.
Obviously, my kids are growing up in a world where social media and the digital environment are, frankly, the way you communicate to people.
Yeah.
I'm not sure my children actually know how to use a phone to talk to people on a phone.
No.
But you're young enough that you're at an age where you actually straddle sort of both those worlds.
I did. I went to Taylor Swift concert last week.
Oh, so you're way in that world. Oh, good. They got to you.
I know. 17. Yeah. Well, my 17-year-old daughter had to go, and I was not going to let her go by herself.
My 17-year-old daughter wanted to go. I know.
Yeah.
You know what happened to the political face-to-face meeting and a handshake being worth something, as opposed to if you didn't post it on social media, I don't even want to see it or believe it or look at it.
Here's a lot. I've used this line in Daily Caller. A couple folks that I follow on Daily Caller started talking about this. Politics is downstream from culture. which is so true. Like, as Republicans, we want to talk about the 15-page energy policy, and we know we're right on policy. We know our Republican platform is a heck of a lot better than the Democrat platform, and yes, those are contrasts. We've used that a ton in Oklahoma. But because we are Republicans and we care about issues and we know those issues affect the daily lives of average Americans, we focus on that. And in the meantime, the Democrats are running circles around us in cultural war issues. And a lot of this was kind of exposed during the Obama years and what he was able to do. And I think, yes, you have Prager University. Yes, you have Turning Point USA's. You've got David Barton, God bless the man, for blazing a trail for multiple decades in this space. But, my wife and I, we track everything. I mean, we don't allow our kids on a whole lot of social media, but I've got a senior in high school. So, and we track everything. And I'm sitting around a dinner room table, obviously talking to her about what she's looking at. But, scroll through your kids' or your grandkids', Instagram feeds and look at what, the world is telling them about capitalism. I'm not even just talking about, Republican. You poll any middle school or high school kid today, and they believe socialism ain't that bad because of what they're learning on social media. It is all a concerted effort over multiple decades by the Democrat Party to indoctrinate, educate, whatever word you want to use. This isn't fake news. This has been happening. But they've leveraged social media tools for multiple decades to tell kids that socialism ain't bad and capitalism is the problem, which leads them to, yes, register as Democrats and then be exposed to everything that they are in high school. And then by the time they get to college, we know what happens then, right? Most of the time it's too late, or a lot of times it's too late. So God bless these groups that are getting engaged in this. But politics is, so when I go speak to an oil and gas group in Oklahoma, I really lay it on thick with my oil and gas folks, because they spend hundreds of millions of dollars literally around this country supporting candidates. And I want them to continue to do that. But I tell them, I stand up there, I say, don't give a check to me, start a podcast. If you don't want the oil and gas industry to be demonized in this country, if you don't want your high school kid to think that oil and gas is the enemy, then you better start a television show. You better start a podcast. You better start a movie company, right? That's what Daily Caller did. If you're not following Daily Caller, you need. I believe what Daily Caller is doing, they started a movie production company 2 years ago. I believe that is the way. They have now made 2 movies, and they have a whole slate of movies that they are going to make, conservative movies. We have to be engaged in that space. If we're not engaged in that space and we're trying to turn a 25-year-old after they've been raised in this country, it's a heck of a lot harder to do it. And Daily Caller's not going to be able to fix it on their own. We have to have county Republican parties engaged in this. And I'm not, we don't have the money to start a movie production company probably in some of your county parties. So start a podcast. Go to your local fair booth and have, it's the blocking and tackling. Get into your high schools that will let you into high schools. Make sure that every college in the state of Illinois has a college Republican club. And what I was talking to a few people here, in college, yes, those are years that unfortunately we lose a lot of kids in this country, but at least they're on a college campus and we can go to them. Where we're losing kids in this country, or when they graduate from college, they move somewhere to get a job and they don't have a support base. They're not involved in the community. They don't know how to get involved in the community, meaning it's the young Republican apparatus and organizations that need a lot of help in this country. I'm losing a whole lot more conservatives in their early 20s because they're laser focused on job. I got to make money and I got to find a husband or wife. Then I got to get involved in a Republican or a conservative group. That's where we're losing way too many kids in this country. And I see it in every state. So get in, for sure, college Republican, yes. But make sure that the Illinois Republican Party has a plan for the young Republican apparatus in this state. We're losing far more kids there than we are in college.
I agree. I think with the podcast especially, I think you've been talking a lot with my friend Danny Rogers, who has had this idea for a very long time and been badgering the heck out of me, and I just have to give in and do it because he's right and you're right, and look, it's another avenue to communicate with people.
I didn't do a lot of.
like
I
it.
mean, I wasn't a big podcast guy, but then I started going on a bunch of people had asked me to go on a podcast in Oklahoma, and I said yes to every single one of them. And then I would show up somewhere and said, "Oh, hey, I saw you on. I heard you on this podcast." And then I was like, "Okay, I'm on to something here." Mm-hmm. Clearly, people listen to a whole lot of podcasts. Yeah. So you may not be into it, but I'm telling you, everybody else is. And we've got to be involved in that cultural battle.
So, as a person who is a big believer in the Constitution and the tenets it proclaims, especially freedom of speech, with the anonymity that is presented online and the rest of the issues that I don't think legally we've sort of caught up, the technology got ahead of us very, very quickly. Yeah. Are there limits to that digital space where hopefully we're not butting right up against our belief in the sacredness of the First Amendment?
Yeah, well, I hope there's limits. I hope there is. I mean, I've got a lot of fears with AI technology as well moving forward on this globe. I've had meetings with a bunch of companies today where we've had that conversation. I hope there's limits. I do, and competition. I mean, from time to time, I've heard, over the last decade, there'd be competitors to Facebook or Twitter. It's not healthy when you have monopolies in that space as well. And that's something we need to push back against. And again, I need conservative money in this space. I need more conservatives that have been blessed with financial resources in this country and again, they may not know how to start a podcast, but there's a bunch of kids that I'm looking at in this room that do. And so I need conservative money that's backing those kids and backing talented media personalities in this country, the Ben Shapiro's of the world and other. And again, they're getting the money. He's building an army, and that's good. But Ben can only go so. I got to have people in every state, and so that they can again build up that ecosystem, I guess you could say. So I hope there's a limit to it, but it's way too much of a monopoly right now. And again, that goes back to the previous question. We have to have far more people in this space. If we have more people in this space, we will be influential. We will make a difference. We will get more people. We will open that door for some people to say, you know what, I didn't think what I was being taught in college was right, and now I'm seeing something that is very intriguing to me, and I'm going to go to that next county GOP meeting to see if this is something actually I could get involved in.
I'm going to switch lanes a little bit just because it's centered on Oklahoma, and I remember this so vividly, the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. Yeah. So that was in 1995. Yeah. Homegrown terrorists. A bomb went on outside of the building, and it was horrific. Being an Oklahoman, this is in memory. Yeah. How did this impact you?
Well, it changed Oklahoma forever. So I mean, you can, Oklahoma, if in the mid '90s the economy was really bad. I mean, we ride the wave on oil and gas, so we're on that roller coaster. And the mid '90s wasn't great, and then the bombing happened, and it brought the entire state together. So that's Governor Frank Keating. Frank Keating was our governor at that time. He's been on the national level a lot. Thank God he was our Republican governor at the time. He really helped rally the state. But it also where was birthed this Oklahoma standard. That's kind of our motto in Oklahoma, and that was not that motto was not created by Oklahomans. It was created by national press that came to Oklahoma to report upon this bombing, and they were blown away by how friendly people were. These are New York, Chicago, L.A. People from states that maybe aren't as friendly, and they were brought to tears. I remember that almost more than anything was the feedback of the national media that came to Oklahoma and they dubbed it the Oklahoma Standard. They said, we've never seen anything like this before. And in our country's history, we've rallied as a country before many times, but that changed our state forever. That launched economic vitality, a program in Oklahoma City. Our MAPS program, the bombing memorial in Oklahoma City is still a wonderful museum, still one of the top museums in the country today, still 25 years later. But I'll never forget it. It's one of those moments in time, certainly for us. But I was so proud about how our state, Republicans, Democrats, and Independent, we rallied as a state. And again, I'm glad we had the kind of governor that we did have, that supported law enforcement, that was able to, talk about what this really was. Because I would, when it comes to perceptions that cities and states have, as an outsider, and you all probably hear this from friends and family that live in other states. When people think Illinois now, it's crime in Chicago. Okay?
Sadly.
Yeah. When you want to know perceptions of Illinois, one of the first things that comes to mind, because of, again, what is on TV and some of it reality, is crime. And you look at cities that are growing in states that are growing. It is cities that understand growing communities are safe communities. Safe communities grow, and they support law enforcement because of it. And it's been something that certainly we've used in Oklahoma around our tourism industry. So, well, our tourism industry, how is the tourism industry tied to Back in the Blue? Well, I can tell you, we are the most sales tax dependent state in the country. So if a mayor in Oklahoma is not creating sales tax, they can't pay for police and fire departments. And so we've wrapped all of this, and again, that's a conservative principle, but you're kind of coming at it at a different angle, is kind of what I'm getting at, that most people don't think about, that frankly opens the eyes of liberals, frankly. That if you want your kid or your grandkid to be able to find a job in Chicago, you better figure out how to make Chicago safe, because people will leave cities that are not safe. And that opens up the eyes. It has in Oklahoma. It has opened the eyes of a lot of Democrats. That's one of the biggest reasons a lot of Democrats have re-registered in the state of Oklahoma over the last 15 to 20 years. They've said enough's enough. And a lot of people think it's taxes, it's Nancy Pelosi, it's Barack Obama. Yes, some of it was national, but a lot of it was at a local level. They were tired of Democrats controlling these cities that weren't cleaning them up and weren't keeping them safe. And their kid couldn't find a job because of it. That changed a lot in our state. And it's changing a lot of states because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned earlier, you're a little bit of a political anomaly. You, at the age of 29, you were the Oklahoma Republican Party chair.
Yeah.
And then you were elected lieutenant governor before the age of 40.
Yep.
Just being reelected again, and now you still... I mean, you are the future superstar of this party. You are emerging now.
There's a lot of folks younger than me involved in the game now, but I'll take it.
That's my question.
Yeah.
How do we get the younger generation?
Yeah.
Politics is so caustic.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And now with everyone involved in social media, they will dig up a tweet that you said, you commented to your friends or whatever else. They will dig it up. How do we get young people involved and run for office?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a whole lot harder today because of that social media generation, because everything is now housed forever. And I feel, I mean, in some ways, I was kind of that last generation when I graduated from college, had a cell phone, but it was starting to kind of, and I talked to my buddies in high school and college, and we laugh about it, how thankful we were that we did not have Twitter and Facebook and Instagram when I was in high school and college. Because I don't know how you do it. It's, we have 4 kids, my wife and I, and it's one of the biggest challenges raising kids. It's very difficult. So what was the question? How do we get young people involved?
How do we get young people in?
So here, I don't know if Oklahoma's unique on this, but someone was asking me, well, how did your state committee in Oklahoma elect a 29-year-old? And I have been asked that in a lot of other states. And I'll give the state committee in Oklahoma, all of our county chairs, they showed up and they voted for a 29-year-old kid. And I give them credit for it. Now, I was running campaigns in Oklahoma. I also think that, I was raised by mom and dad that made sure that I was humble and kind and that I didn't come in thinking that I knew everything. Then I was going to come in here and knock the old guard out. I never operated that way. And I think because of that, it broke down some walls with some county chairs. But I will say this too, older generation, baby boomers, in Oklahoma at least, they're like, thank God. Thank God, there is a 20-year-old that wants to be involved because I'm tired. I am tired of running. Yeah. I am tired of running this county. I'm tired of raising all the money, and I want this 20-year-old involved. At least in Oklahoma, we've done that, and it's probably because people are so nice in Oklahoma.
You keep saying that. You keep saying that.
I do mean that.
The implication is that maybe we're not so nice.
I think there might. I think there might be something to that in Oklahoma. Is like we kill people with kindness. I mean, we are, and so I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something to that. But so we have two state representatives in the state legislature right now that got elected when they were in college.
Wow.
Two or three state representatives right now that got elected when they were in college. And then we have a couple more that in their mid-20s. So I would just say it's not been an issue for us in Oklahoma to elect good young people. And maybe it's, again, something in the sauce or in the water in Oklahoma. But I'm very thankful for it, because I could have had a lot of folks pat me on the head and say, you're up to bat next. 10 years from now, you can run for office. But we use this a lot. And in the Tulsa Remote program, all the polling that we do with these people that have moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, the number one thing that they say is I didn't move for the $10,000 check. I mean, all these people are making good money. If they can relocate anywhere in the world, they're working remotely already. The secret sauce for them was I could join the chamber and get involved that day. It's probably not that way in Chicago, right? Like, it takes some time for a 25-year-old probably to get more involved. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, we'll sign you up and put you on a committee. You can change the world from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I did not know that for these younger generations that was as big of a deal as it is for them. They want to change the world, whatever that means to them. And to move to a city where they can join the chamber, they can be involved day one and feel like they're involved, that is why they are in Oklahoma. They are not there for the $10,000 check. They're not there because it's very affordable and you can buy a house for half the price as you can in Chicago. And that's true. They're probably a quarter. Yeah. They like that part of it. But they were sold on being able to change the world from that city.
I'm still guessing not many people return that $10,000 check.
No, they don't. No. That $10,000 check was spent.
Yeah. So one of the issues we have in Illinois, and it's not unique to Illinois, is that we have a lot of different flavors of Republicans. Yeah. And like family, we do not all get along.
Yes.
I think the principled stance a lot of people in the Republican Party take is that if someone doesn't agree with them on a lot of the issues, and look, it's out of principle, that maybe we'll sit this one out, or maybe we'll... Look, the Democrats find it much easier to just vote against Republicans. Republicans tend to take a more principled stance.
Right.
But we all have to vote. We all have to be rowing in the right direction. How do you do that? I mean, look, Oklahoma is a red state.
Yeah.
You got all flavors of Republicans.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all Republicans,
yeah,
but they're all there. How do you get them rowing in the right direction?
When I ran for chairman, and again, this was 12, 13 years ago, or whenever it was, feels like 27 years ago. This has always been an issue. That's the first thing that I would reassure everybody in this room of, that you may be new to the party, you may have been around. If you've been around a while, you know what I'm about to say. There's always been something. There's always been movements. It's never been rainbows and unicorns inside the Republican Party, and it hadn't been with the Democrat Party either. But I said on stage, there's only ever been one perfect candidate. And he died on a cross 2,000 years ago, and his calling was much higher than politics. Jesus Christ was it, right? So like everybody else, and again, this is me, and again, we can preach in Oklahoma, okay? I'm able to do that in Oklahoma. That's it. That's it. There's only one perfect person, and the way that I was raised, and and I saw a lot of nodding heads out in the audience when I gave that speech. And I had a lot of state reps and state senators come up to me and say, "Thank you for saying that," because I go to my local county GOP, and so there always will be some divisions. I do think uniformly we need. Listen, not everybody's perfect. You're not going to agree with everything in that party platform. So if you think you're going to be very disappointed, because it's not going to happen. But what I would also say, what voters are going to respect the hell out of, is if you show up at that county meeting and you take your medicine. I've done it. I've always operated that way as a leader. That breaks down a lot of walls. There's some Republicans that don't agree with me, but I always leave those meetings or those town halls with, hey, thank you for at least showing up, because my U.S. Senator hadn't been here in 10 years. I hear it at almost every meeting that I go to, or my state rep, or, it never shows up. But thank you for being here. I still don't agree with you on this point, but you're here and I'll vote for you next time. Because most level-headed, pragmatic, maybe I guess you could say, voters are going to understand at the end of the day. And if they don't, then listen, bless their hearts, you're never going to be able to probably agree with them on everything. But most voters, I'm leaving with more votes after I leave those rooms than because I showed up, because I was actually there. And while at the same time saying, listen, I'm not going to be perfect, but I believe I'm called to public service. I want to do this. I will answer your phone calls. I'll return as many emails as I possibly can, and I will try to be in these meetings as I can too. And let's go have coffee. Because any state rep or state senator, that's what you're signing up for today, because politics today it's just different. Everybody thinks they can reach you at any 24 hours a day. It wasn't that way years and decades ago, but today voters demand that today. Retail politics is very hard these days, and so that's what you're signing up for in 2023.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think there's something we can all agree in the room, that this hour has flown by and it is not enough time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot, and I'm going to ask that you tell us and agree that you're going to come back and continue this conversation.
Sure.
We have a lot to talk about. I didn't get through 3/4 of my questions. This is that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you. Appreciate it.